It was noontime today in the center of Beijing when a man walked to the middle of the Avenue of Eternal Peace.
All right, welcome back to the Survival and Basic Badass Podcast, Kevin and Chuck. Today, we're going to talk about Trump's cabinet picks. A lot of that information's coming out. A lot of people, we don't typically. It's always people I've never heard of. When a president comes into office and
Right.
they're kind of from nowhere. And I think we kind of got that with Trump's first initial offering.
Right.
I know he had made he gave a big speech. I don't know if it was on Joe Rogan or somewhere that I caught it, but he was talking about he really didn't expect to win. And he kind of trusted a lot of his Republican friends, government types were like, hey, you need to go with people who know how to get stuff done and know how Washington works and are insiders, or you'll never get ahead. This was how he explained it.
Right.
And so we kind of went along with whoever told him. And of course, because these people were like Washington insiders, they really weren't actually fans of Trump. And like once everybody turned on Trump, like as a whole in the country, because there were reasons, whatever. Well, we all have our own opinions, but there were reasons. And once people started to like get weird with him, they were all like, yeah, he's really bad. There were all the secret insider cabinet whisperings. High value cabinet members say they don't trust him. They don't. And sure, they're saying these things among their friends because it obviously wasn't too popular in Washington to say that you were a Trump fan.
Right.
Early on. And so people were, I don't know, and whatever. And so it just kind of started falling apart. And I feel like they were insiders. And this time he really made a point to say, look, one, I'm going to hit the ground running and have my picks really early on. I've been thinking about this. I know who, potential people are. I'm taking it a whole lot more seriously just because it's one of those things you don't believe that you can actually become president. I don't know, like beyond the shadow of a doubt. I mean, to me, that's a big dream that it's hard to like, is it really going to happen?
Nobody gets nominated to president and immediately is like, yeah, this is going to be a landslide.
I got this. Especially somebody who was such an outsider, early on.
Right.
And honestly, I mean, I felt like it was more probable in my mind that he was going to win then than it would have been now. I didn't think he had a shot this time.
Yeah, I didn't think he was going to win. I think the definitely the media had a spin on it, and I don't know what the deal was, but
and honestly, I mean, I know I'm a crazy conspiracy guy, but I didn't know if there was going to be election meddling or whatever that was going to affect things in the outcome. But I definitely didn't think the map would look like it did, the electoral map. I didn't think it would be a landslide. I thought there was a shot he would win, but I didn't think it was a big shot.
I mean, to me, if looking at the polls and what the hell does anybody know?
Right.
But, I mean, the polls seemed it was like a 50-50 kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought with that and a little election meddling, it'd kind of go the other way. That was how I thought. But obviously I was wrong. I know Kevin's staying quiet on that one, so I like that. No, I mean, because he wants to be like, well, it's because you're an idiot. Nobody meddles with elections. They're all perfect. They're perfect. No illegals vote. Nothing bad ever happens. It's all good. I know. So anyway, yeah, I kind of wanted to dig into it. It did suck. Like I had slightly bigger dreams of how deep I'd be able to go into these people.
Right.
Because I was like, yeah, we can really take this on and search out people. Every article I read was like the most ridiculous fluff story of either hate or positive stuff without any real meat.
Yeah,
And
there's a lot of articles I read on every one of these that were hated them or loved them.
Hated them.
Nobody was like, this is what this dude's deal is.
Yeah, and nobody like laid out, hey, these are their accomplishments. And as far as this job, this is what they're saying they're going to do.
Mhm.
It was hard to come by that information. So Kevin and I, we both come at things from a different perspective. So and the cool part is we both see totally different media in our lives, me and Kevin. So the stories that I missed or whatever, Kevin hopefully caught them on his end, and vice versa. Hopefully I have the things from the other side. I'll be Paul Harvey and have the rest of the story.
Alright. Alright. I'll be Steve Harvey.
Kevin can be Steve Harvey and make it fun and entertaining.
Alright. So,
What do you got?
usually the most powerful cabinet member is the Secretary of State. So
I think that's accurate.
now,
Because
it's
I mean that's
Anthony
Hillary
Blinken.
Clinton, right? So
Yep, Hillary
right.
Clinton was
I mean,
one.
in the past, right.
Anthony Blinken is the current one, and the nominee is Marco Rubio, right? For Secretary of State. He's been
Not Kissinger.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's from Florida. He's a senator from Florida. Been a senator since 2011. So he's got 13 years. That's 3 elections. That at times he's been elected down there. He seems like a competent person.
I like that, Kevin, from you. That's surprising.
I mhm.
I thought you would be a little anti-Rubio. I was curious on that one.
There's a weird thing about Rubio that he doesn't have a whole lot. He's broke. He doesn't have a whole lot of money, which is a rare thing for these Trump. You'll see as we
For a
go through
politician.
that most of these guys are billionaires or at least
They run in circles,
Mhm,
right?
right.
Kevin, if you grabbed a bunch of your friends, would there be a lot of billionaires on your staff?
No, I don't run. I run with hundredaires sometimes. On the
Hundredaires.
balling nights, but
I was able to pay my rent or my mortgage this month. Right?
Yeah.
That's okay. That's about where I roll.
Yeah. So
Maybe
Marco
maybe I
Rubio's
got a
been around a
flashy
while.
car.
He ran against Trump for the nomination,
Yep.
and they've been pretty good friends since he was elected.
Yeah, I think
The first
so.
time.
And they've treated each other. Rubio kind of like had his back and jumped in, early on after the election
Mhm.
the last time. And I think that's pretty cool. I mean, it's pretty cool for people to support you and to have people who are on your side. That's what I think is pretty cool. I do have, he's considered a big foreign policy guy. Obviously, you want from your Secretary of State.
Right.
Tough on China and Iran. I kind of like that. And yeah, he seems like a decent guy and a decent pick as much as we know on the surface.
Mhm.
Now, what do you know about the defense secretary, Pete Hegseth? I don't know much. I did some research. So I mean, I have the research, but as from personal, like I've been following this guy forever. That's not me.
Yeah.
I didn't have the deep. He was National Guard officer,
Mhm.
Afghanistan, Iraq, Bronze Stars, which I gotta say, they don't just
Yeah,
fall in your lap.
they don't hand those out. There were some questions about his tattoos, right? Is that a thing? Did you see that?
I think I heard something about that, but I just kind of dismissed that stuff and move on. So I didn't give it
Yeah.
the
So the question, the issue is there's a picture of him with his shirt off at like a swimming pool or something. He's got a Jerusalem cross. Jerusalem cross is the one with he's got it on his chest. It's one cross and then 4 crosses around it, So it's it's a very religious tattoo. Like maybe if you were very religious, you might get this tattoo. That's a
Okay.
possibility, right? And the 4 extra crosses stand for the Gospels of Jesus,
All
and
right.
it's called the Jerusalem cross.
I've seen it. Yeah. I mean, I know the cross. I just, that
Yeah.
is, it's weird, but I mean, we all have our thing, right?
Right. It is related to like Christian nationalism as well.
Oh,
But I
Kevin.
mean, I feel like, if look at the swastika, there's people in India that have swastikas tattooed on them that have nothing to do with Nazism. I'm not saying one way or the other, but
It's
there's
weird how
relationship.
throughout history that symbol has really like, it's been around for a long time. It didn't start out, with Hitler, with the
Right.
You know, the whole swastika thing, which is
Right.
like
And
you
the
said,
Jerusalem cross, was worn by
and it's not a
crusaders.
swastika, to
It's
be
not a
clear.
swastika. It's a different thing. And
To be clear.
it was worn by crusaders who were freeing Jerusalem from Muslims and Jews. So I mean, there's reason that it was adopted by certain
Right.
anti-Jewish groups.
Oh, Kevin, you had to go there. No, that's not wrong. And so one of the things people are talking about is he's been very he's going to kind of get rid of the woke political correctness in the military would be
Mhm.
one of the things.
Now he was a Fox host, right?
Yeah,
Fox,
a
Fox
contributor,
News.
one of those,
Oh,
I
okay.
think was
All
what
right.
it was. It said, no, you are correct. A co-host for Fox and Friends Weekend. So,
Okay.
and also like along with that, I'm seeing Trump pledge to fire generals involved with the Afghan withdrawal. I feel like the generals didn't really make that decision, although it was a freaking disaster.
It was a
So,
disaster, but you know, I
y- y-
mean,
I
if
think
you're
somebody should go in and look at it and see,
yeah, if you're
hey,
a captain
these
of a
people,
ship and your ship sinks,
that's how it goes down. Yeah.
you know,
So, all right. So we'll go with that. Energy secretary is what I had next on my list. Do you have
also, I
somebody
think
higher
it's one of
power?
the it's really underestimated how powerful the Secretary of Energy is. A lot
And
of
they run
people,
the EMP stuff.
yeah,
So
all
that's
that stuff, and a lot
um,
of the fusion experimentation, all the they do a lot of that funding private companies to come up with energy based systems. So the guy that they got for him, he's pretty good. He
he
actually has pretty
his name is
deep
Chris Wright.
ties. Chris
Yeah.
Wright. Yep.
He was the CEO or is the CEO of Liberty Energy, a fracking and oil field service. Now, that
Right.
may scare people a lot like, oh, God, he's oil and I hate oil, whatever. But remember, the Department of Energy oversees oil and gas production, exports, as well as the whole nation's nuclear programs. Like I mentioned, they also do the EMP thing.
Yeah. And he's
So,
also a board member of Oklo, which is a nuclear tech company.
all right. So, I mean, definitely something you want to. He
Right.
seems like a good pick.
Yeah,
It
he's
seems
also
solid to me.
he's also a board member of EMX Royalty, which is a company that pays out royalties for mineral rights.
Okay.
So ultimately, he's been very involved in energy production and energy companies for a long time. So he kind of has you know, his fingers in all of that stuff.
Not a bad way to be. Um, Next on my list of importance, I have Homeland Security Secretary. Does that sound right to you? Like as far as importance? I don't know.
Yep.
I'm just waiting for you to be like, wow.
No, go
Um,
ahead. That's right.
Kristi Noem, who we
Hmm.
know, the governor of South Dakota. I think she's the one that shot her dog or something.
Hmm.
That's your. I like that's the news that's like the claim to fame. No, actually, maybe it's not her. Um,
Well, I mean, sometimes you have to have somebody that you know
she was a former Wisconsin congressman and Fox Business Network. No, but there's another one that shot their dog. It wasn't her.
wasn't her.
I guess I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Yeah.
I'm dumb. Anyway, she Fox News Network host Sean Duffy appeared on MTV's Real World reality show. Wait, that's not that's not her. I'm lost.
Yeah,
My
Kristi
my
Noem is
notes. She is the one
Homeland
that had
Security
the
is
dog thing.
she's a reasonable pick. I don't know that she's really got what it takes to be the one that's doing the dirty work, because that's really who's doing the dirty work.
It is the big thing like Homeland Security. Yeah, I don't know. Sorry, my notes threw me there. But the big thing with Homeland Security is these are the people who came up with the list that, we should look at all veterans as terrorists.
Hmm.
And obviously, I would like somebody fresh and new in there that's not that.
Yeah.
And she's not that. We're
Hmm.
not going to have that problem. I'm just going from memory. I thought Kristi Noem, she was the one that wasn't she a fighter pilot? I think she
I
was
have no notes on her. I don't.
I was doing good, and then all of a sudden my page, I grabbed the wrong one, and my whole order got thrown out.
All right.
So now
Well,
I'm
let's
out the
move
window.
on.
You're in charge then. That's
All
all
right,
I.
Secretary of Commerce. That's Howard Lutnick. We were kind of talking about him before the show. He's a CEO of Cantor Fitzgerald and BGC Group. He's basically going to be the one that's running our tariff and trade agendas. So when it comes to tariffs, that's kind of a big thing everyone's been talking about. There's going to be a shift in our economy that's we're going to have to adjust to and prepare
And
for.
in the past, he has completely shown support for all Trump's tariff stuff. I mean, expect what you've been hearing from Trump.
About
This
tariffs to
guy's
be
on board
true.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
As a personal note, and again, I mean, that's kind of why we wanted to do this episode, was kind of our take on these guys
Mhm.
and, you know, what to expect and things that concern us, don't concern us about these people. Personal thoughts. Me, I listen to a lot about investors and hedge fund types, and they basically kind of, I mean, I think the tariffs are a positive in general for the country. I so wish after we went through the pain of the first Trump presidency that Biden had held out on that. The crap. All right, we lost you for a minute. That was
Oh.
longer than usual. So anyway, with tariffs, I personally, like I was saying, the backlash, I wish that after we went through all the pain of having the tariffs for the first Trump presidency, I wish that Biden had followed through. I felt like it was political spite that he just kind of undid everything after we already went through the hard part, in my mind, where if we had held out a little bit, things would have been better. Now, flip side of that, I think that blanket tariffs are kind of a mistake. I would just have tariffs on things that we don't want Americans to do, or the other way, that we do want Americans to do, right?
Right. To do
Things
at
that,
home.
you know, to bring
Mhm.
those jobs back and make it easier for American companies to thrive and then hold out. Like, as a general policy, obviously, being a libertarian, I don't think that there should be tariffs on anything. But to be honest, we're playing in the real world. And by that, I mean other countries are doing it. And
Yeah.
you
And
have to have a back and
hypothetically,
forth.
tariffs will reduce inflation, according to economists. I don't understand that, but
Yeah.
that's one of the things
That's
that the nerds say.
Yeah, the nerd stuff. So,
Mhm.
I mean, that's something with that. All right, next I have education secretary.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. This is a weird pick for Trump. I know he's got a connection with his old days with his WWE
Right.
wrestling buddies
So
and
Linda
stuff.
McMahon, and you know the name from Vince McMahon. You may have just seen the Netflix series. Obviously, we know Vince McMahon for being the jacked WWE owner, producer, just about everything. He's
Right. So co-founder with Linda McMahon. Linda McMahon was a wrestler.
Was she?
Yeah,
No,
back in
I
the
did
day, she was
not
doing
know
the
that.
hair pulling and the eye gouging and stuff. She was
Okay.
one of the female wrestlers. She is or she was the CEO of WWE. She co-founded it with Vince. Um, she was the CEO in the
Yes, she
late 80s and
definitely was.
early 90s, and that was a time period. There was a dude named Melvin Phillips Jr. who he was an announcer, and he hired these guys that were called wrestling boys that he would hire, and they would help him like set down and set up the stage and take everything down and do the stuff after events. And they got to meet wrestlers and they got to like go to the shows and stuff, but they also got molested by this dude.
Sure. Who hasn't seen that play out?
So these kids that were molested 30 years ago are suing WWE for like knowing that this dude was molesting kids and like getting reports that he was molesting kids, but they didn't do anything about it. So
Kevin.
Linda McMahon says she did not molest any children.
Okay. Good to
And
know.
she also did not know that this dude was molesting all those kids. So I mean, that's it. There hasn't been a trial yet. There's no just
Okay.
allegations.
But Kevin, as a fan of WWE growing up my whole life, WWF all the way through, I feel like I don't want that to be true. How about that? That can be my takeaway on that.
You know, anytime I hear stories about kids getting molested, I'm like, you know, I hope somebody does something about it, but that's not really something I'm interested in knowing more about. You know, it just makes me feel
I don't
shitty.
want to dig into that story. That's just ugly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, she ran. Did she win for Senate or Congress when she
No, ran for Senate, but she never won.
Yeah, because I remember seeing the elections. I know she lost one time. I didn't know if she came back the next year.
Yeah, she
That was
lost
she
both.
running against Bernie Sanders way back?
I don't know where she was from. I'm not sure.
I want to say they're like Vermont or somewhere in that area.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, no. So McMahon's are definitely smart business people, though. I'll give it that.
Right.
And the stuff I heard from her, she was pretty cool. And you know, this her policy ideas back when she was running for Senate, and we're talking at least 4-year election cycles ago. So 16 years ago, somewhere around there.
I think it
a
was
long time ago.
2012, maybe.
Yeah,
Something like
it was
that,
a
yeah.
long time ago that was happening. What do you
You know,
have
I'm
next,
fine
Kevin?
with her as long as she doesn't have any interactions with children as
Yeah.
Secretary of Education, which might be difficult.
Fair enough. That's the thing. Like one of the things too that comes to mind with me is the thing is like everyone's like, oh, there's this part of their past. And guess what? There's nobody that we're gonna all agree on, 100% with their story. And there's very few that as an individual, I can agree and say 100% of that person's character is awesome.
Right.
And I agree with everything they do. People are like, oh, you like Trump? Well, that means you like whatever stupid thing he may have done along the way. Or you could even go the other way. Oh, you like Obama, but you agree with every stupid thing he ever did or whatever? Well, no, but I like the things that I got out of it or whatever. I mean, obviously, Obama wasn't the pick for me, but, you see where I'm going with that. But one of the things is you have to think of the job they're being picked for and how do they feel and represent that. And I think that's what matters so much is if this person is going to be the Secretary of the State, how do I feel about their opinions and interactions with the worldview and how they interact with people, how they deal under pressure, that kind of stuff. These are the things that matter to me. If I have a guy in charge of the Department of Health and Human Services, I want to know how he feels about health and human services, not how he feels about foreign policy. It doesn't matter to me because that's not what I'm hiring him to do. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And I think just take that into account. And that's where we need to focus with all people. And I'm not saying dismiss other stuff. I'm just saying there's different ways that we weigh those parts of them. Obviously, your character does matter. How you make decisions under pressure matters. Those things make a big difference. But as far as their worldview, I want to focus on what they're in charge of when they're being picked and why they're being hired. To me, that matters.
Right.
But
Right.
that's
I don't
all
know.
got on that.
To me, if you have, I don't know, if you have child molestation allegations, maybe, I mean, there's probably a bunch of people that don't have allegations about.
Is there,
molesting children.
Kevin, in Washington?
There's a lot of people that
in
don't have that.
Washington.
Well, I mean, that's true. What did
Kevin,
Marjorie
how many
Taylor Greene
people-
say last week? She said some crazy shit about Matt Gaetz. She said if we're gonna put his report out, then we're gonna put everybody's report out, and then the Democrats will have a supermajority. The fuck does that mean?
Yeah, I don't really know how that. Yeah, that's weird.
What the fuck is she talking about?
Yeah,
Alright.
she's not known for saying the most level-headed.
Intelligent shit? Yeah, that's
No,
true.
I mean, but again,
True.
it's another person where sometimes you're like, well, that statement I can agree with. Yeah,
Mhm. Well, I
that's
mean, if somebody says a bunch of crazy things, then
yeah.
generally speaking, I'm gonna agree with some of the crazy shit. I mean, that's just
That
kinda,
that's how it
some
goes,
crazy
right?
shit and, some of it'll stick to the wall.
Some of it'll stick. Exactly. All right. Again, I my notes kind of got out of order. CIA director. How about that? Does that sound like next, or do you have somebody
Go
you have?
ahead. Yeah,
All right.
I don't
So
have anything on him.
I have John Radcliffe. He was
Mhm.
the intelligence director of national intelligence for 8 months under Trump in his first term. Selected to lead the CIA for the second. He was a congressman from Texas. Um, and that's really all I know about him. He uh he was actually though here served as a member of Trump's impeachment team during the Democrats' first effort to boot the then president from office. So I
Mhm.
guess that could be perceived as well, he had Trump's back, so but honestly, I would want to pick people around me who have had my back.
Yeah.
To me, that's a reasonable statement, but I don't know enough either way on this guy to, you
Alright,
know,
well, let
have
me
a big
segue
opinion.
with that one. Another guy that had Trump's back. And this is, it's not a very powerful position, but it is an important one. Secretary of Veteran Affairs.
Oh, I didn't have that.
Doug
Nice.
Collins, he's a Republican representative from Georgia. He's a Baptist minister. Um, he's got a law degree, former Navy and Air Force Reserve colonel.
Nice.
He served in Iraq. I think he served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And he wrote the book The Clock and the Calendar, which is a book basically defending Trump and his first impeachment.
Really?
Yeah, with the Ukrainian, pay to play.
If somebody yeah, I mean that's somebody that has your back. And I think that's kind of cool. But again, I don't know enough to dig deep in there. So I don't know. I'll kind of move right along. Does anything come out bad that you've seen? Anything that
No, he
concerns
seems like
you?
a decent dude, but I think he
Okay.
might have issues with Vivek Ramaswamy
Oh,
because they're talking about cutting some of the services from Veteran Affairs.
okay. Yeah, and I think that's a debate that has to be had.
Mhm,
Obviously, I like veterans benefits. I like
mhm,
different things there, but I don't know I also am practical. It turns out our country is broke. You
mhm,
guys probably don't know this. Like that's one of the big things that I keep seeing is like with the prisons. We kind of can't even like California and these places, they're letting people out who are pretty sketchy because they're like, yeah, we can't really afford to keep them.
mhm.
So you have to decide, do I like getting some cool veterans benefits or do we afford to keep the prisons open?
Right.
Or, I mean, you have to
Yeah,
decide
and
what program.
really, if you're asking me if we need more people in prison or more benefits for disabled veterans, I'm gonna side with the veterans, but I mean, whatever, dude.
Yeah,
You
no,
know?
you're not wrong. You're not.
I don't support
That's
like, we
not.
have more people
I
in
was
prison in the United
trying to
States than
think.
any other country except any other country technically, but China probably has more than us,
Yeah, that's right.
maybe that we don't know about.
That I would say is true.
So, whatever, I mean, that's just disagreement,
Yeah,
but
no, you're not wrong. I chose a bad example. I'll
mhm,
give you that. I just when I'm like, oh well, rapists and pedophiles, those are the ones that we're obviously letting out. I
mhm,
don't know. I have no idea. Um, Environmental Protection Agency, Lee Zeldin, selected to lead the EPA. He's a Republican, former New York congressman. So maybe he'll be like, "Hey, we need to go out after people with squirrels and things like that."
yeah, that did happen in New York. They
Um,
put that squirrel down, dude. It was not safe that guy had that squirrel. He was mistreating it, so they took it and killed it.
the thing is, like,
Mr.
they sent,
Peanuts, what was his name?
yeah.
I
The thing
can't
is,
remember
like,
what it
they
is.
sent like a SWAT team. Like
Yeah,
they were
yeah,
like,
no, it was a serious situation. We had to
And it's
raid his
like,
house.
really, we don't have time to look into like all these serious crimes, but we're on this because,
You know,
I guess
it's
you have
funny
to
that
make a stand somewhere.
they
Sorry.
sent the Department of Environmental Protection,
Yeah.
and a lot of people don't know much about them, but they will shoot you. They have
Oh,
no
yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when 9/11
Department of
happened.
Energy too.
Yeah,
These
when
guys have
9/11
guns.
happened, the amount of firearms and military weapons that the Department of the DEP got,
Yeah.
huge, like crazy stuff.
Yeah. No, it's a crazy world. Now, to be clear, even though that story was a little confusing, Lee Zeldin had nothing to do with the EPA in New York.
Nothing.
And nothing, absolutely nothing. It was a happy segue for me.
Yeah,
So
so
I
he
had to put that out there.
if you're concerned about that we're not doing enough to protect the environment, then he's not a great pick. If you think regulations are hindering business, then he is a good pick.
And it turns out for me, that's what I want. As again, I mentioned my kind of libertarian views that it turns out less government in any area, I choose yes.
Yeah.
But
all right, so let's talk
and-
about Border Czar.
yeah, well, one last touch on the veteran thing before I got too far off. Somebody also pointed it out, but the whole thing is there's a million things to cut before we get to veteran benefits. But if we're like, well, we're just cutting everything across the board, I like it. But that's the thing. I want a guy who's going to fight for the veterans as much as we can. And then I want a guy who's going to fight for cutting extra spending as much as he can. And I want it to all mesh out and find the right places where money's being wasted. That's the bottom line. That's what I'm after. Let's stop government waste. And then I think we could be on board with that.
All right, we're gonna get on into that in a few minutes, but I got
right,
a
who do you
couple
got?
more cabinet
Sorry.
picks I want to talk about. Border Czar Tom Homan, right? He sounds like really tough on it. He's right now he is the director of immigration and customs enforcement, so he's not, he is involved in that business.
Okay.
He was the one that was pushing to separate kids from their parents at the
And
border
put them in cages.
as like as a way to like deter people coming with their kids to the country.
All right.
So, I mean, if you're into that, I didn't really give a shit. Some people were really concerned about it.
To me, that sounds like a pretty big deterrent. Hey, if I do something bad, I might have severe consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that is the right answer or not. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things. Like, you know what? When you're breaking the law, I have less sympathy for, your consequences.
The consequences of you
Doesn't
breaking the
mean
law.
I think, oh, take babies away. That's so sad. Like that. I agree. That is sad. That's not what I want.
Now he also seems like he's behind. I have a hard time like nailing it down, but it seems like he is behind the idea of denaturalization. So that would be people that are immigrants would be uncitizenized. You know what I mean? Like people that came here and became citizens.
Okay.
And that's kind of like a deterrent to like the anchor family member, like Melania came over and then her mom came over and her dad came over.
I guess, now correct me if I'm wrong. This is my understanding of what you're saying, because I don't know the details on this, but to me, like, so we come over, we have the anchor baby, right? I'm illegal. I came across the border in shady ways. I have a baby, and now he's a citizen, so I get to stay because I'm the mom and dad of this. That was my understanding of how it was happening and playing out right now. My understanding. All right.
Right.
I don't know all the hardcore details. However, I am totally cool with sending the entire family back, but giving this baby, the baby's a citizen. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when the baby's able to take care of himself or has a family member who can take care of him and they want to come back, but the family is still responsible for the baby. And to me, the family is not, justified in being here based on my earlier premise of they came here illegally and weren't whatever. So the anchor baby thing, I don't support it in any way, but I don't have a problem with somebody being born here being considered a citizen. and
Right.
letting them come back when they have a way. Personal
And
thoughts.
right. And denaturalization, it doesn't like there's no definition for that. What does that mean?
Okay.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It could mean any crazy shit that you come up with. It could mean that because it
Right.
doesn't have a meaning.
Okay. So there you
So
go.
we'll see what happens.
There you go. Who else you got? I have FCC Chair Brenda Carr.
That's an interesting pick. The FCC is not. It is a powerful agency when it comes to freedom of speech. It has a lot of regulation. I mean, that's why we can't say swear words on TV, only on podcasts. So we'll see how that happens. I don't
The
know if there's
only
going to be any
yeah.
real intervention in podcasting.
All right.
But
Well, here's
I'll see.
right. Here's one of the things which actually might help podcasting, to be honest. Carr wrote on social media right after first statement since the announcement. Carr wrote the FCC would get rid of its diversity, equity, and inclusion promotion.
All right.
You can take that however you want to take it. I don't even that's your own whatever.
Mhm.
I did hear somebody the other day, and I've been meaning to drop this somewhere where I have to, and I'm just going to get in trouble for saying it. And there's probably women in the other room listening to me right now. But
You're gonna
if
be in trouble.
if we could pay women less to do the same job, if I had a company, why wouldn't I just hire all women?
Right.
To me, that's how things would work. So I
Mhm.
don't. I feel like there's something shady going on that I'm missing in the story. That's all I'm saying. And you could expand that to include whatever he's talking about there. But I'm just saying, if they're the right people, I don't know. I feel like I may have I had to say it. Sometimes you get those things, and even though they're wrong and there's going to be recourse, you just have to say it.
Mhm.
That was one of those that I had to drop right there. I just put that out there.
Yeah. Now,
Um,
two interesting ambassador picks.
yes, Israel for one, maybe
Israel, and that's who is that? Huckabee,
Huckabee.
right?
Yep.
He's been a real pro-Israel guy for a long time.
Yes.
It's a big positive push for Israel for him to be picked, and also the UN ambassador, Elise Stefanik. She's a Republican from New York, congresswoman, and she's also very pro-Israel.
All right. I like that. And I like pro-Israel personally, my own opinions. Director of National Intelligence. Did we hit that? Tulsi Gabbard?
Yeah.
All right. So left the Democratic Party in 2022. So definitely, a little nonpartisan kind of thing here. She was served 4 terms as a Democratic congressman woman from Hawaii. And by the way, she was the one who was the military vet that I was thinking of earlier. Anyway, she was a Democrat in Hawaii, which I gotta say, to me, I would think you'd have to be pretty left leaning to be a Democrat in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, I don't know. What do you think? Any thoughts on her? Or
There's
is
a lot of
that all that I had?
accusations that
Like
she's like pro-Russia and shit, but I haven't really seen anything that made any sense. Like, a lot
anybody
of the
tied
dumb shit they said
to
that
Trump tends to get
I've
that.
seen like 5 articles, and then I read the article and I'm like, what are you talking about though? Like,
You know what?
meat?
Yeah, you know what I could say about that, and I don't know her opinions on that. What I could say about being pro-Russia is I am pro-Russia not nuking the US and pissing them off just to piss them off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pro that. But, apparently the current administration maybe not pro not pissing them off just to piss them off.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're always pissed off and they're always making threats. It's like fucking, they're getting to be like Kim Jong-un at this point, where you're like, oh, big scary, oh no.
I would be
Like,
honest,
you kind of
dude.
start
Yeah.
buying their bullshit.
I would be honest with you. I think you're right. I mean, Putin's just like, Russia's been propaganda machine since the beginning of time, right? And saber rattling is not a wrong thing to see going out of there.
Yeah, I have no fear of Russia in any way as being in the United States. You know, if I was in Poland, maybe I'd be a little fucking nervous about shit. But
Right. Now there are two big ones that I really was excited about just because we know these characters a little bit. Um, One would be Health and Human Services Secretary, RFK.
mhm.
You want to jump in with your stuff there first, or should I take this one? Your
Go ahead.
concerns,
You go
your
ahead.
favorites.
Yeah.
All right. So RFK has a lot of big ideas, and getting rid of food that is kind of poison on the shelves. Now, let me preface, my mindset is always libertarian, government should stay out of everything.
Mhm.
However, do I sure as hell wish that we didn't have poison in our food all over the place? And I feel like America really does. That's my thought. I think America is very bad with that. I think high fructose corn syrup, huge, big problem, not good. Um, the fact that you see these things in your Facebook feed of, if you go to Europe, your McDonald's French fries have 4 ingredients, and you go here, it's like 11 or 12 ingredients, and half of them are chemicals and nonsense. He is the guy who's going to get you closer to the 4 ingredients.
Mhm.
That's the bottom line on RFK. I don't think you're going to get any radical no vaccines for kids or things like the scare tactics are trying to push you. Although he has definitely made statements over the past that where you're like, "Ooh, is that going to, sit well with everybody?" Things
Right.
like he has definitely made statements that at least hint to there's a possibility that vaccines cause autism. He said things like that.
Right.
He doesn't say don't give your kids vaccines because they're going to get autism. He doesn't say stupid things like that, but there's a balance. He has been labeled as an anti-vaccine activist. I don't think that that's
I don't think
um,
that's an accurate moniker to give him.
right. It's not, and it's he's pointed out that there's chemicals that are bad in vaccines that we should maybe try to get rid of. Things like that. And that's not a bad thing in my mind. Um, so you take that as you will. Uh, Kevin, thoughts? Anything else you want to add on him? I think he's awesome. I think he's going to get rid of a lot of the problems. The thing is, I think you need to weigh how much power does this guy have, and I think he's going to, by wanting the extreme, he's going to push us in the right direction. That it's going to get us a lot closer to a healthier goal and a healthier outcome. That's my theory. Kevin?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely been tied to a lot of conspiracy theories that
Yeah.
may or may not be true in the past, in the present. I don't know. There's a lot of talk about, he did a lot of talk about fluoridation, which is adding
Yes.
fluoride to your drinking water.
I
Um,
personally am not excited about fluoride in my drinking water, but
I don't
you're
have fluoride in my drinking water. I can tell you that. Not
okay.
because
Not by choice.
Not by choice, that's just what they do here. They
Okay.
actually started fluoridization here in this area in the 1970s, and they got all these complaints. They had a set date when they were going to start, and they got all these complaints. Dyes weren't mixing properly for shirts, and bread wasn't rising properly, and dough wasn't, all sorts of complaints. But then there had been a problem with the shipping of the fluoride, and so nobody had added fluoride to the water. It was just people being crazy and,
Right.
believing shit was fucking weird. There's been a lot of misinformation about fluoride. Um, Whatever. I don't really give a shit.
All right. Good to know. Um, a little previous note, it was Tulsi Gabbard who killed her hunting dog that it was revealed in a book.
Mm-mm.
And
Not Tulsi Gabbard.
right. And she was the one. So she was a Democrat then. So,
I don't think it was Tulsi Gabbard. I'm pretty
well,
sure it
that's what I
wasn't.
have in my notes here that I got from the
Slow burn.
the
Who
Hill,
who killed their shooting dog?
right?
Google that
I
for
think
us.
it was. She also, so she was opposed to the US's immigration crackdown in a second term. She was opposed to it. So I don't know. I'm kind of down for immigration crackdowns. So you kind of, you do you. Um,
All right,
The
so
what else?
let's.
Yeah,
You were talking about that. The other one that's widely known
is
is Dr. Oz, right?
oh,
Dr.
all right,
Mehmet Oz, Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administration or Administer.
okay,
So, Dr. Oz, there's been like a lot of fucking back and forth between what he said, what Trump said, what everybody's been talking about as far as Medicare or Medicaid. A lot of people are concerned about it. There's
okay,
definitely going to be big changes in Medicare and Medicaid services.
okay,
What they are, it's not clear though.
okay.
It's going to be restructuring and you know
It
different ways
does
to
suck that we've all
save
paid
money.
into Medicare, and
Mhm.
now that I'm going to get old, in 10 or 15 years here, it could be bad. So I don't like that. Um, but hey, I understand cuts have to be made, but it does suck that we've been paying for health care for our entire lives. As far as Medicare, that's the one where they take care of the older people. And yeah, they've been paying it a long time, but damn, darn if expenses haven't gone up with medical services. Another one that we want to get into, and it's I didn't want it to get overlooked. Dr. Oz, was there any more with him? I mean, again, he's one of these controversial, you see these things. I feel like I see stuff on Facebook that, oh, Dr. Oz promotes this. And I don't know that he does or has anything to do with it. And I'm like, that's crazy. Make your man parts grow 5 times or something. Dr. Oz says, yeah, like who knows? I don't know. I don't know what happens. I don't Not something I really follow in my daily life, to be honest. So that's what I would say about that. Next one, a new position that's been created. And this one I think is one of the ones that actually inspired me to do this episode was the DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. This is a big one. Now, this is Elon, billionaire, and Vivek Ramaswamy. And Vivek is actually somebody who I'd been seeing in a lot of the podcasts that I watch and the different like circles that I catch on YouTube. He's been a familiar figure, and I find that 90% of the time I agree with him. Um he was he did have some kind of stint around college of being a rapper called Davek. You might want to Google it. Anything that I saw on YouTube had him uh, rapping more recently to some Eminem song, "Lose Yourself," I think, and I know that Eminem is not happy with some kind of conservative rich guy who's like a hedge fund guy, singing his songs. I'm sure that causes trouble. But I expect things. Look at the budget and see where we can make cuts. Only sounds like a good thing. Um, 26% of the budget is discretionary. Like the rest is paying off debt or mandatory obligations that we have as a nation. So, but 26 of huge leaves a lot of room for some cuts. And that's what I would say. And these guys are hopefully going to thin down some of that stuff. I'm kind of excited to see what they come up with. They also talked about they were going to get rid of some burdensome regulation or make recommendations on that. They also said they were looking at like crowdsourcing the ideas of what to do and basically looking to, hey, submit your ideas kind of thing. And really, hey, let's dig deep because you can't be everywhere at once. These guys, I mean, we know with Elon, this guy's running a million businesses, has a lot going on, and you're saying, how can he take on one more thing and do a good job? But my experience is these guys know how to organize people. They know how to get people excited, get people looking for the right things, and they know how to pick people. And that, to be honest, is what excited me about Trump in his first term, which didn't play out as much as I wanted it to. I'm expecting good things with what I'm seeing on this second pick, that it is about picking good people and people who can get the job done. And that's kind of exciting to me. And I think Elon and Vivek are both people who know how to pick people, put them in the right spot. It's just whether or not you agree with their agenda is, I think, where you'd maybe run into some conflict.
All right. Just to back up real quick,
Yeah.
it was Christy Nome that shot
Who
her.
had the dog?
Yeah, it was her.
I knew I was right. See, you should listen to me.
So Vivek Ramaswamy, the only issues I have is he had two statements talking about cutting down Medicaid and Medicare, and about cutting down veterans benefits.
Okay.
So we'll see if that's the case, but he he did talk about doing that. So we'll see what
And
other thing
like I said,
what ends up happening.
being open to cut things, I'm not bad. I don't want to see cutting down veterans benefits. I agree with you 100%. Because there's a million other things that we're doing with money that have no business
Yeah,
with the
I mean,
government.
I think it's important when people talk about cutting Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid. It's important to understand that the people that are getting those cuts are people that paid into it, just like you paid into it, just like I
100%.
paid into it.
And you will never get as much money as you paid in, inflation adjusted, back.
Right.
And that's kind of messed up.
Yeah.
And
I
the
mean,
bottom line
it's
is
your
we
money to be
lied.
spent on you, and if they
Right.
cut the services, then that's your money.
And it was taken under the premise that this is going to be set aside for you and we are going to take care of you.
Yeah, and
And
it's
it's
maybe not the case.
in reality.
Yeah.
100%. And I couldn't agree more. But what are you going to do? It's an ugly world here. But
yeah. New recently, now we're recording this,
Yeah.
before it's released. They just let
hate
out
that.
Scott
Yeah.
Bassett as the Treasury Department.
Okay.
It looks like they're gonna go. I mean, he seems like a decent guy that understands money and finance, but not really sure anything else about him.
Right. I have Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, ties to oil and gas.
Okay.
I don't know much about him. And again, the Interior Secretary, that's, a job where that's going to matter. You
Yeah.
want somebody who's going to be pro. I mean, again, if you're pro, you want somebody to agree with you when it
Right.
comes to oil and gas.
So let's you got anyone else? I wanted to get into some tariff stuff a little bit.
But we
before
got to be
wrap up.
quick because my computer says I have 7% or 6% left. We're at
All right.
6%. So it may
So
just
let's-
all go away. So just
We'll
knock
run
it
through
out.
it. Yeah, electronics. Smartphones, probably increase of 26%. Laptops and tablets will go up about 46%. Video game consoles, about 90% of video game consoles are imported.
Okay.
So those are all things that might affect us. 80% of clothing in the United States is imported. So it's jeans, t-shirts, sweatshirts, probably 20% increase on cost of clothing. Start thrift store shopping. Buy your Christmas toys because toys are going to go up. 90% of toys in the United States are imported. It's going to be an increase of about 55% on toys.
It's the craziest thing. Malls are dying. And I went to our local mall to find something the other day. The wife took me shopping. We wanted to get some early Christmas gifts. And there were 0 toy stores in the mall. But I counted, there were like 22 jewelry stores in my mall.
Shit.
And I'm like, that's weird. You have no money or nobody's buying things for their kids, but the new bling, I'm just saying.
It's just everybody's trying to get laid, dude. If you're trying to get laid,
It is the number one motivator, right? The sex drive. So
we'll see how that goes.
Sorry.
They say the tariffs are going to add an additional $2,600 expenses to the average American, but it will also decrease inflation, and hopefully some of that will be negated by job growth in the United States. So
Okay.
We'll see how it all works out.
That I like it. And that's about where you fall on all that, or you got any more you wanted to add?
Well, I mean, I would expect as far as tariffs and things like that go, I would expect that cost of living for most people is going to go up. If you're super rich, that'll, be the least impacted. Super poor will be the highest impacted. And that's how it goes. Get a job, start working, make some money. You're going to need it.
All right. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. I didn't know much about him. Just wanted to drop these other names that I had. Border. Yeah, I think we got all of them. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles ran the Trump campaign. The VA, you said Doug Collins. We had that. Oh, Attorney General Pam Bondi. She was the first woman Attorney General in Florida. And I don't know. We'll see. Everything I read, there was just like nonsense stories of like, oh, she adopted a dog after Katrina and then got in a dispute over the handling of the dog, with not her handling of the dog, but giving it back and whether the previous owner was neglecting it. But I don't know. There were no facts to the story. And I was like, well, that's not helpful. And I hate to be the guy. I just am trying to express my point. We really tried to do some good research for you guys on this stuff. And it's hard to find information out there that's actually based in facts and evidence.
Right.
So just putting that out there.
You can find positive or shitty news articles
wherever
about
you want to
every one of
be.
these people. Yeah.
And I do have to say, I appreciate Kevin being pro whatever. He didn't, hey, Kevin sometimes goes off on a tirade, and some of you more right-wing people might cry after an episode with Kevin. I think he spared us some tears today, so we can all appreciate it.
Well, it was only because Matt Gaetz backed out. I was gonna
talk
shit about Matt Gaetz for about 20 minutes, so
do
you guys lucked out that he backed out.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I was tempted to let you have your say now, but no, that's cool and that's reasonable. I want it all to be facts, and it is so hard to find real information to put out when the media and everything is just so all over the place. So anyway, you guys are awesome sticking around. Make sure you like and subscribe. That always helps, helps grow the channel. Leave reviews, comments, that kind of stuff. You have show ideas. This was a show idea from a listener. Email us at preppingbadass@gmail.com. And I would say with that, stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week.